Okay, so go green, go white. We're trying to make measurements here, measurements with rulers and graduated cylinders. All right, so here's the deal. We had a difficult time. We started making some of these measurements yesterday. People were confused. What am I doing? The first thing you should understand is we do want to make accurate measurements in terms of the numbers, but understand that when I correct things, I'm not looking so much at the numbers you put down. I am looking at the numbers you put down, but what I'm paying attention to more is how many like decimal places you use. That's what I'm really looking for here because that's what we're working on is precision. All right, so just a quick review. If we have some kind of number, 6.231, just to identify these places. This is basic math from like 4th grade. But this spot here is called the ones place. And then if there's more to it, we'll have a decimal. This spot here is called the tenths place. This spot here is called the hundredths place. And this spot here is called the thousandths place. And we could go further, but that's mainly what we need to work on, okay? Focus on those. We could go the other way. Maybe this is 46. Of course, we would call this one the tens, not tenths, but tens. All right, we could have hundreds place, all that. All right, so what you guys had was we're starting off making some measurements with rulers, okay? And so let's say if you have your measuring length worksheet, you could take a look at that real quick. Come on up if you need one. Why does it seem like I don't have enough here? Did people lose them? So if you look at the measuring length worksheet and the top half, because if you get this top half down, if you really understand the top half of the front side, you're going to be in great shape for the rest of it. But if we look at letter, say letter, let's do letter D, okay? So letter D, and we have centimeters. It says measure it in centimeters and measure it in millimeters. All right, and so the ruler, I'm just going to draw the part that we need. We have like, here's my ruler, and here's 6, and then we have, here's 7, and then we'd have here, somewhere out here, 8. But this thing, for letter D, it looks like it points right here, all right, right at 7. Now, those aren't the only marks on the ruler. There's also some longer marks about halfway between. And there are these smaller marks between those. All right, this is letter D. So if you work through this number list that I just put up here, tens, ones, tenths, hundredths, thousands, and you think about the unit you're measuring in and go through that, that's the first step to figuring this out. And yesterday on the top of the paper, on the top of the worksheet, and for those of you that weren't here, I put at the top, had the students write at the top, precision goes one more. Precision goes one more. What that means is if you look at the smallest possible measurement you can make on that measuring device, your actual recorded answer should go one spot further. Okay? Your actual measurement should go one spot further. All right. So what I can ask myself, first of all, when trying to figure out what measurement to record, it's pretty easy for me to look at this and say, how many centimeters? 7 centimeters. Right? Everybody agree with that? Thumbs up if you understand that. Thumbs sideways if, wait a minute. Thumbs down like, what? Makes sense that we would call that 7, right? 7 centimeters. And you would be kind of right. But if we were on a quiz doing this stuff, I would mark it wrong. And here's why. It doesn't go to the right level of precision. What I'm going to ask myself is, in terms of centimeters on here, can I see the ones place on here in terms of centimeters? Can I see 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? Can I see those? Yeah, we can see those. All right, so I'm going to put a dot here. Do you understand that you can see right here is 6 centimeters, right here is 7 centimeters, here is 8. You can see the ones place. It's marked on the ruler. Does that make sense? Can you see the tenths? Are they marked? Can you say? Can you see like 6.1? Yeah, it's right there. 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4. So I can also see the tenths place. All right, those ones I'm underlining, I can see those. Now, can you see the hundredths place? Are there little dots in between those? No. Okay, so this is where we're stopped. I can see the ones. I can see the tenths. I cannot see the hundredths. So that's where I'm going to estimate is that spot. Now, to me, this looks like it's right on 7. And what this is saying is if I'm estimating this spot here, my answer should have 2 decimal places. Well, if I think it's right at 7, then what am I going to write down for a measurement? 7.00. And if you put 7.00 for this measurement using this ruler with these marks, I would say right. Maybe you put 6.99, and I would say good job. Maybe you put 7.01. Excellent. This last mark is estimated. So you guys might not all have the same answer, but I'm looking to see with this particular measuring device, you should have 2 decimal places. Was that explanation better? Alana? So the very first one you were talking about, you say you think it'd be 0.50. It's going to have 2 decimal places. If you think it's right on a half a centimeter, 0.50, 0.50, either one. Now millimeters, if we talk about millimeters, so the millimeters are the little marks in between. There's 10 of them for every centimeter. So this is a little different. So the millimeters, if I'm doing a millimeters measurement, if I think it's really 7.00 centimeters, do you know how many millimeters that would be just by conversion? How many centimeters, or I'm sorry, how many millimeters are in 1 centimeter? How many millimeters are in 1 centimeter? 10, thank you. So how many millimeters would be in 7 centimeters? 70. All right, cool. I'm going to write that down then. So this is showing the tens place and the ones place. Now, can I see the ones place on the ruler for millimeters? So can I see each millimeter marked on the ruler? Yes, I can, because this would be like 61, 62. This would be 60, 63, 64, 65. You agree? You can see 1 millimeter, right? Can you see a tenth of a millimeter? There's no marks in between those. So I can see the ones place for millimeters, but I can't see the tenths place. That's the first number category I get to, number value I get to that I cannot see on this ruler. So that's the one we estimate to. So in terms of millimeters using this measuring device, I'm going to go to 1 decimal place. And if I think it's really 7.00 centimeters, that means my millimeters should be 70.0. Does that make sense? All right. So what we got to do is we got to ask ourselves, what's the smallest value I can go down to, and whatever the smallest mark is on the measuring device, estimate the next spot. So if my measuring device, I can see the ones, I can see the tenths, and I cannot see the hundredths, then that's where I'm going to estimate my last digit and have 2 decimal places. Alana? A? Oh, in millimeters? So you said you thought it was 0.50 centimeters? That's what you thought? Well, then for millimeters, I just count the individual marks. So different ruler here, and here's 1, and then you've got that. Okay, and you said it's right on it. So that would be, I made too many marks over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 millimeters. But then again, okay, I can see each individual millimeter, so that means I'm going to go to 1 decimal place. You notice any kind of relationship between the centimeters and millimeters? Whatever you write down for your centimeters, your millimeters are just going to be move the decimal 1 to the right. Okay. Now we also did graduated cylinder yesterday. So here's my graduated cylinder. Let's say I've got a measurement here. This particular graduated cylinder, we'll mark it at 5. We'll mark it at 6. And then I've got this liquid in here. And remember, I said liquids tend to have a little dip to them that we call a meniscus. All right. So we've got some kind of liquid in this graduated cylinder. All right. So what would we say for this measurement? What do you think? Would you say it's 5 point something? All right. So I guess, and with graduated cylinders, what we measure in are mLs, milliliters, for volume. But so I've got, let's say, I know it's between 5 and 6. I measure the lowest part of this dip, so it's going to come like right about here. All right. So this is where I'm measuring to. All right. So if I look at this, so on this graduated cylinder, can I see the ones place marked? Is the ones place marked? The ones place, which would mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, it is. All right, so the ones place is marked. Is the tenths place marked? I don't see any little marks in between them. All I see is 5 marked and 6 marked. There's no tenths place marked. So that's where I'm going to stop. I am going to estimate the tenths place. And so here's how we estimate, all right? It's going to be a number 1 through 9. If I think it's like, if it's not right at 5, if it's right at 5, I put 5.0. If it was right at 6, like this, I'd put 6.0, 5.0, all right? Now, if it's close to the 5, but a little bit above it, I might call that a 5.1 or a 5.2. Either would be great. Maybe it's like, looks like it's halfway between them, 5.5, right? Maybe it's up here like this actual one is that we're measuring. Is it super close to 6? Because I would say 5.9. Not super close to 6. Maybe I would call this 5.8 milliliters. Now, if that graduated cylinder did have marks in here, like that, so now the tenths place is there. So I'm using a different graduated cylinder. It's still at 5 point something, and the way I drew the dots actually made it right at 5.8. But so this time I say, can I see the ones place? Yes. Can I see the tenths place marked on here? Yep, here's 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4. I can see the tenths place as well. So on this one, I'm going to estimate to the hundredths place. And if I think it's right at 5.8, I'm going to put a 0. Yep. With liquids in a graduated cylinder, you look for the lowest part of the dip. We call that thing a meniscus. And so that we're always measuring the same thing, we measure at the lowest point of it. Okay? And so you can see if I had 2 separate graduated cylinders here, one has a little better precision than the other. The one that's just marked every 1, well, my measurements are only going to go down to a tenth. But if I have each tenth marked like this one, now my measurements are going to go down to the hundredths. That's more precise instrument. All right. Any questions about this? Hopefully I explained it better today.